Hello and welcome to VistaTalks, interesting discussions with interesting people from all around the world. I'm your host for today, Priscillia Charles, as per usual. And today we're delighted to have a special guest from Deliveroo, Anne-Sophie Delafosse. Hi, Anne-Sophie.
Hi, Anne.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you for having me.
We're delighted to have you on the show. For those of you who wouldn't know Anne-Sophie yet, Anne-Sophie is Localization Manager at Deliveroo that I'm sure many of you know. And so you're very welcome, Anne-Sophie. And without further ado, let's move on and get on to the show. I'm sure our audience is dying to know a little bit about you and your recent achievements, because I believe congratulations are in order. You recently, you've become, in 2020, Localization Process Innovator of the Year for the USA at the 9th PIC event, which took place recently on the 28th of January, 2021 at Loc Worldwide 43, and I'm sure many of you know. And I understand that you started this project 2 years ago already. And I'm going to quote you here, your innovation, I'm going to quote you what I understood from you winning your innovation, make localization part of the experience, and explain a dramatic shift to make software localization a key part of the content flow. Designers in Figma create software and don't need to exit their design environment to manage translation UI, and this brought localization to the center of their experience. So I'm quite curious about the project itself and the purpose. Can you tell us a little bit about it, maybe?
Sure. So yeah, as you said, it started about 2 years ago when I started, and I had a background in like agencies where you work on different files, different content, different clients. And if you're thinking pure translation and you have CAT tools for everything, you know, and I'm not going to quote any now, but you take a PowerPoint or InDesign, you put it in the tool, it creates a bilingual document and you export, and it's pretty and back in the InDesign, right? And you just have to tidy up. So I was quite surprised that we didn't have that for design localization or like app design localization. So Figma or Sketch. I think 2 years ago, they started creating things for Sketch, but Figma was still kind of a startup design tool, and obviously it grew so much since then. So that's where the idea came from, was like, why can't I do the same thing? And also that was one of the first point. And the second point was I was just tired of just being the last one to know. You know, when you're launching a product in different market, and then you have the UI, and then people come to you with, or engineers mainly, oh, we need this in all languages because we're launching in 3 days. And they're like, what? Why? Can I have some context? You know, and so it was mainly like to change this and to stop behaving like an agency that people would come in at the very last minute, but more becoming a partner. So that's where it started, and that's where we decided to build it. Well, we didn't really build it. So I had a concept, but obviously I'm not an engineer, I'm not a tech person. So I had to go and talk to the engineers, be like, would that work? And we started the process at a hack day and realized it was possible to so the concept was to create the keys or the string IDs, depending on how you call them in different companies, that are currently created by the engineers, so like the piece of code. So push that directly from Figma with the content and the screenshots, because we need the screenshots for context for the linguists. And because we're launching everything in all languages at the same time, we can't rely on the live product. So we can't really use in context review, in context translation. So we need the screenshot. So we managed to pull just the key and the string. So it was possible. So the hack day was like, okay, proof of concept, it's working. Now, can I build it with my engineers in-house? Can we do something ourselves? And as many localization experts know, it can be quite difficult sometimes to get buying in localization when engineers is like gold in most companies. You have to fight for it. So I thought, you know what, let's talk to our partner Phrase. So we're using our localization software called Phrase. And I know they were designing something similar with Sketch, or they started talking about it. It's like, just don't do Sketch, everybody else is doing it. Do Figma, no one else has it. And we gave them the design, we gave them the code that we started building at Hack Day, and it was like, here's everything you need, or that everything we built, can we partner together to do it? And can you make sure that it works for us if you decide to build it for all of your clients? So it took a few months of like negotiation talks with them to fully understand, like, do they create it only for us? Do they create it for all of their clients and all this? And in the end, they decided to build it for everyone, which was pretty cool, because the way it's designed is literally what we wanted them to do, or what we had imagined. And now it's like, okay, how can we fine tune it? So yeah, it's pretty exciting. So what it does is, yeah, you create the keys on Figma in a more or less automated way. Then you just push everything onto Frame, and then we get to start working on it. And also, because now we don't have to wait for engineers, we work at the same time as they do, and we work super closely with them now. So we work super closely with the designers, with the engineers, all on Figma and on Phrase, and then we pull back. So when you can pull back the translation, then it gives a visibility to the designers as well of how it will look like. So I think it has also changed the mentality of product designers a little bit to think globally, and to think that their design need to work in all different languages, but also in different markets. Because when they pull back, then they're like, oh, we also need to change the map. Oh, the currency is different. Oh, it's longer. Oh, we need to change the icon. So, it kind of helps to bring awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit on this project, and it's fantastic news again. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So I want to move to a slightly different topic now. You've attended the Think Global Forum, this community that founded by Simon Hodgkins in 2016, and you've attended as a forum executive. So we've been to a few events. So we just hosted the Think Global Forum Summit Week, and which was a fantastic success. Now, I'd like to know, what do you look forward to in this type of unique events, which has obviously, specific format of networking and discussions of opportunities and challenges? Tell me about your perspective.
Yeah, so I went to a few before lockdown, so it was slightly different then. And what I liked is the networking part as well, because localization can be, especially because we're only two now in our team, so it can be quite lonely, I would say, and people might not necessarily have the same issues that you do in your company. So it's I like meeting other people in the same industry and bouncing ideas with them, and feeling a bit less lonely, and feeling like, okay, they also have similar challenges that we face. And so it's kind of reassuring at the same time, and you get ideas from each other on how to fix problems. That's one thing I really enjoy. And then to the few that I went to, there was always like a discussion in the morning, like a boardroom session, where really that's what also was part of the networking, right? Where you bounce ideas with each other. And then there's the second part, which is more conference led in the afternoon. And I've learned so much in those conferences as well, and just brought ideas to my mind, like, okay, maybe I can't do this exactly, but this could apply in this situation. Also, yeah, it's mainly the sharing that I really enjoy in those kind of forums.
Fantastic. Well, that's exactly what we're trying to achieve, I suppose. So we really look forward to being able to host you in person again. Probably maybe not this year, maybe next year.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, exactly. But and now I'd like to discuss your journey at Deliveroo. Up until, should I say, professional journey up until you joined Deliveroo. So I was doing a bit of research, looking at professional and educational background, and I saw that you first studied English and English literature. So was it that you were always interested in languages in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, my background is not that common, I think, because I've changed quite a bit in different bits. But the common thread has always been languages. So yeah, my main subject was English and English literature, but then you add a few different languages to it. Yeah, I've always loved it. Simple answer. I've always loved it. And one thing I've loved, I'm not really good at speaking other languages, to be honest, but I can understand some better, like reading wise. No, trust me, when I was with the Italian team this morning and I had to read something in Italian, it's like, oh God, this is long gone. But I like thinking of languages as math. You just add bits and pieces, and you have to understand the formula of how they work. That's what I love the most. It's like understanding how the languages work.
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose, yeah, the root of some of the languages are similar as well, yes.
Yeah.
Some Latin languages, for example. So, and now you then become a language teacher. So how did you
Yes.
end up, like, so you said you've always been interested in languages. How did you end up in localization? Because I myself studied languages and I've always loved English as well. But somehow I made my my career all the way up to marketing, for instance. So what was the trigger for you? Did you hesitate at some point and you knew it was for you?
Well, I've always been a little bit in between teaching and translation. So, because that was also part of the degree, right? It's kind of like the two main routes that they tell you that you can take at the end of that diploma. And I went into teaching honestly just because of one experience that was a language teaching assistant at the time, just to practice my English in a school, and just life just happened. I was like, oh, do you want to extend for another year? Yeah, sure. And then another opportunity came up for another school that wanted to work with me. I was like, okay, sure, I'll come here. And then that's it. But then I realized that it was not for me. Like, teaching kids was not for me, I have to say. Like, I love the language, but I'm really bad. I'm not a good teacher. Definitely not for kids. Definitely not for kids. For adults I was better, but definitely not for kids. So I'm sorry for all the kids that I have taught out there. I do apologize for this. And then that's when I realized, okay, what can I do? And then looking at LinkedIn, looking at the jobs, localization, my background is in localization. I wanted to become a translator again because I had some experience in that. So, okay, maybe I can get into an agency and see exactly how it works before going back to university, doing another master, and fully embrace myself to the life of a translator. And I just love being a project manager. I just loved it. It was fun. It was interesting because there was so many moving parts, and I'm an organized person. And then you work with different cultures, different clients, and then that's how I came to it. And then delivery was again another experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Came along, yes. So moving on to your current role at Deliveroo, where you are the localization manager for those of you who are joining us now, and you started the localization department at the organization, actually.
Yeah.
Impressive. So tell us a bit about the organization and maybe about your current role there. So I understand that you work with product designers, as you mentioned, and then also the developers, and you localize the products in 9 different languages.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a great opportunity, and I will always remember when I saw the job and I was like, oh, you can start from scratch, because I had done something similar in a previous organization where it was like working on the workflows and working on the strategy, and I know it's something I really like. So I was like, oh, that looks amazing. But one thing to note is that actually Deliveroo had already entered a few markets before I arrived. So when I arrived, I've only launched one market actually since then. And that's why it was almost like a blank, well, it was not really a blank canvas, but it was bits and pieces, and like, okay, this is wrong, this is not great, this needs to be improved. So it was kind of like, okay, talking to everyone. So yeah, I'm working with the designers, the content team, developers, marketing team, comms team, legal team. You work with literally everyone, right? So I took the first 3 months to really listen to what was good and what was bad about the workflow first.
Yeah.
And then looking at the quick wins. So the first year was really like putting things in place that would be helpful, because they had no one before. So it was quite a lot of it was a bit messy, let's put it this way. It was a bit messy, so trying to organize it all, and once that was kind of organized, like, okay, what can we improve? Let's actually crack on. And that's what the Figma project, for example, took 2 years, because we needed to first do the base to be able to do something better. So we're now at a stage where operation wise we can do better, we can improve, we have a good base, and we're growing the team. So far I've hired a language specialist, so we're bringing the freelance, because we're working with freelancers, so we're bringing that knowledge in-house, potentially hiring more in the next couple of months, I hope. So yeah, we're looking at growing our team as well, because we've proven to the business that it's needed to have experts in this field. It's not because you speak a language that you can localize a product.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah, that sounds very exciting. A lot of moving parts, I can imagine, which explain obviously the need for a bigger team, but that's totally understandable. And so you also created references and style guides in different languages. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, I mean, I created this might be too strong. I supported I led the project, but I worked with the freelancers and with the different people in our different market to make sure that it was okay, because we didn't have any reference when I started, so it was quite difficult when we were bringing new freelancers in-house or freelancers in to be like, okay, do you need to localize this way, or our tone of voice is this? It's like we had the global one in English, but we didn't really have certain things for each language that are quite particular, because we have a voice, we have a Deliveroo voice, but our tone might be different per market. So it's like, how do we keep those references? So I worked with the different freelancers on the different marketplace that we have, because obviously we have rider, restaurant, and consumer, and our tone is again different. So imagine three kind of customers in a way, and different languages and different market, because we use Dutch in Belgium and in the Netherlands, and we use it differently, or French in France and Belgium as well, and it's completely different. Our voice is different in those two markets. So it's like, okay, how do we make sure of those differences? So that was the main reason, because you have people coming and going, and sometimes they take that knowledge with them. So it was to avoid this as well. It's like, okay, how can we have it somewhere?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's very clever. You need to be able to retain and supposed to be educate and help people for if you start, I suppose, another. You like I say, you broaden and you open to a new market, for instance. So let's discuss your role as an educator. I want to say you describe your role as one of a guide and educator for the business, and on the importance of localization. Obviously, having been involved so much from the start, and you commented images tell a story, and they can tell a different story in different markets. You need to make them resonate with your users. Can you expand a little bit about this?
Yes, I think I know where this comes from. So it's because if you think of the iconography or food images, because food is part of the culture, right? It is such a big part of a country and its culture. And one example would be a pizza. You have the American style or Chicago style pizza. Never put that on a header email in Italy. That's not going to go down well, right? So it's how important the localization of your images have to be for each market. A burger with, a big burger with maybe double cheese or bacon, you can't have that in the UAE or Kuwait. So you need to pay attention to all of this. Iconography is super important as well. So, for example, we have our Plus product, and we have, if you're a family or if you're ordering for one person or if you're ordering for a group, we have different icons, and those icons will change as well per market or almost per regions, because you want the people to feel like
they can relate.
Exactly, that they can see themselves in the product. So it's those kind of things that you have to also pay attention to.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting, I suppose. And you can't sell the same way the way you sell to a customer in Norway that you would sell in Uruguay, for instance. So it is very, very important, which is the whole point of localization, really, which highlights the importance of having localization department. You have experts understanding the culture and the language. To other departments. And sorry, you're going to say something.
No, I think you're completely right. And that's where, as part of educating, people think of localization as translation, and they only think it's a question of strings. They don't necessarily think it's a question of sort of images, icons, flow. Like we're reviewing, for example, our address flow at the moment, and it needs to be different. So it's more than just the words. And I think people tend to forget this if they're not within localization.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Now I want to move to a slightly different topic, because I understand you recently joined a panel of global localization experts for a Vistatec digital first strategy, and you offered excellent tips on integrating localization into the entire building process that we discussed. What are these tips for anyone to be interested? Tell us.
So the first one was, to bring the localization within the workflow. So don't add a step. That's what I meant. It's, you need to be able to become a partner, to be able to not be seen as a thought after. You need to come in where those people are. You make it easy for them. Make it simple. Don't tell them that they have to do something else. Come within their tool, come within Jira, come within Figma or Sketch, integrate within their tools and what they do. This is what I meant. So that's the first one. The second one is to find allies, because, as I said, it can be quite lonely, and sometimes, or most of the time, localization comes after hiring engineers, after hiring designers, and it's like, oh, we launched it in other markets, or it's becoming too much for either the engineers or the product team to actually handle localization, that you come in. So finding some allies to actually support you with operational changes will help you, because otherwise you're like in a little corner all by yourself. That's never good. You can't really change without having the support of other teams that see also the benefits of having a streamlined process altogether.
Absolutely, yeah, it's such a big process for sure. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, well, thank you so much for these tips. Very useful. And now, before we end this interview already, tell me what's on your radar. What's on the horizon for you in 2021?
Oh, in terms of localization, well, hopefully hiring people, and so I can concentrate on that plugin and streamlining it with, because right now we're using it only with a few teams, because that's the way it is, and we've tested it and it works. So it's now bringing it so that to this entire workflow to every team. So that's the big step for me.
Okay, sounds like you've got a busy schedule, right?
Yes.
And anything else you'd like to share with our audience today?
I think that's it, really. Sorry, I can't think of anything right now. Maybe localization is actually fun. Like, come and work in localization. It's actually very interesting, because it's never boring. I would say localization is never boring. There's languages, it's culture, it's tech, it's design, it's everything. So yeah.
Full on.
Full on. Yeah, it's not just a dictionary, and looking at an app and like, how does it work, or machine translation and all of this. No, it's a lot more than this.
Thank you so much, Anne-Sophie. Well, it was a pleasure to have you today on the show, and I'm sure our audience is really looking forward to us releasing this episode when you see or listen to this episode. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anne-Sophie. And so it is the end already today, the end of today's show with Anne-Sophie Delafosse, who I will remind you is the localization manager at Deliveroo. So please make sure to tune in again, or listen and watch to our next VistaTalks show, where we'll be discussing more interesting topics with interesting people from all around the world. Thank you.